right. Hi, Grayson.
Hi.
Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Here to interview you for my upcoming book, The Wild Advantage, Why We Should Take Our Work Outside. Tell me who you are and what business you're building.
Yeah, I'm Grayson Sterling. I'm 25 years old, from Boise, Idaho. Lifelong baseball player, love sports, love everything. I play golf now, play pickleball, but went to college at Gonzaga University, played 5 years of Division I baseball there. Couple all-conference selections there, was lucky enough to play under some great coaches, some great teammates. And now I am lucky enough to work with athletes still in the mental performance realm. I'm a mental performance coach, working towards my certification in that. Should have that here pretty soon. And I'm building Sterling Mental Performance, where I get to meet with athletes and non-athletes and work on building their mental skills, like confidence, self-talk. We go through different leadership strategies, all kinds of stuff there. So I'm super excited to, get that growing still in year one. So getting a lot of the, mistakes out of the way and learning every day. So it's super fun.
Well, entrepreneurship, right? It's a wild ride.
Yeah.
So you and I had the experience of working together. I was a business strategist that kind of helped you build out Sterling Performance and sort of your mission statement, your vision statement. But we started our engagement on the hiking trail. Can you share with me? I think we went up to Bogus Basin. It was really beautiful. Yeah. Share with me a little bit about your experience hiking with me and what that felt like to just be on the trail, some of the questions I maybe asked you, and how that helped you think about the business.
Yeah, definitely. Well, starting with going up on the trail, it's something that I had experience with, just growing up in Boise, going out to the trail, going out on hikes. And it's something where I was like, okay, am I missing something? Like, how is this going to connect the pieces, like with my business? Like, I've always thought about those two things as completely separate entities. Like, okay, I'm going to go exercise, and I'm going to exercise, or I'm going to do the sport because I want away from school, or I want away from thinking about all this stuff. And so to me, I was somewhat skeptical, but still open-minded of like, okay, like, this is what she does. Like, there must be something here, like in this hiking stuff. So I was very open-minded, and we got out on the trail, and just very naturally opened up into this interview process where it's like, okay, who's your target client? Who have you worked with in the past? How can we maybe use what you've done to help yourself find a more like niche area? And just very naturally, you're walking through nature, and you kind of lose yourself into this like flow of just like trying to answer these questions and really trying to figure out, how am I gonna make this business work, and what do I want this to be? And it's so nice to have like that creative flow of your thoughts interacting with the creative flow of like walking through nature and just being immersed in like what's going on around you without, your phone going off or your computer email going off or, all these things that we have capturing our attention. It's so nice to just kind of let your body wander, let your brain wander. And, we came up with really great stuff.
For sure. So you bring up a good point. I steal people's cell phones at the trailhead, which you well know, and their smartwatches. Do you remember?
My watch. Yeah.
Do you remember that moment?
Really
you were pretty upset with me. You were like, "What do you mean, my smartwatch?"
I was ready to track my steps, and for some reason, like I've just started like road biking more, and for some reason, like when it's not tracking my steps, I feel like it doesn't count.
Right.
So like I was like, oh shoot, like the hiking isn't going to count for my fitness, but it's not really about that, and that's so. Whatever, that's so materialistic to think about. So
it is, but I think we're conditioned. I got a chuckle because working together, you're probably one of, I would say, like the youngest people I've ever worked with, and some of the executives I work with don't have the smartwatch, so it's like less of a thing. But you were one of the first people that was like, "Oh," but I remember you saying to me, you were like, "I won't," but I don't know how many steps I'm going to do. And I remember saying to you, "But you're going to do the steps anyway." Yeah. But would you agree that had we kept our cell phones on and kind of kept the smartwatches on, it would have been distracting to the process you experienced?
100%. Definitely, just because not even something that like I would have gone out of my way to like think about or like check on, but it would have been something that I would be checking, or I would be curious, how far have we gone? And I would look down, and not that that's something that like I need, or I feel like I need. It's just like, it's so habitual that like it does take your mind off of like what you're focused on. So I'm super happy that we did leave those away.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you remember our trail time together, and were there any like aha moments I ask a methodical series of questions actually as we hit different metrics on the trail. You don't know this, I know this, but after we hit certain time frame points, I know the science behind it and why these are good questions to ask in that bracket of time. Do you happen to remember any of your answers, or maybe questions that I asked that you gave an answer that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, definitely. Thinking back on it, there was one question that really stumped me. And this business idea was like somewhat new at the time also, so I hadn't spent that much time on it in general. But I think you asked me, you know, in like 5 or 10 years, like down the road, let's say you get this going and it's going really great, what does an ideal day look for you? And I remember kind of just being like, I don't know what it looks like. And you're like, no, like you do know, like you need to give me a better answer. And it really forced me to think about what I wanted, you know, my business life to look like. And I think just through thinking about that and through the answer I gave, it kind of gave, like, it was some self-discovery where I was like, okay, I didn't even know that I wanted this until like I was kind of forced to think about it. And now I actually have somewhere to go with that. And I have a roadmap to follow because, you know, the pressure was put on and like, that's what I said. And so I trust that that's like my authentic, genuine answer rather than, you know, taking a step back, thinking about all these different perspectives and things, which sometimes that's what you need to make a choice. But, you know, in that moment on the path, it was like, okay, what do I really want? And I gave you the answer, and it's kind of like, okay, like cool that that's what I want, because now we can like reverse engineer that and figure out how to make that work.
For sure. So we had the experience of, we went for a hike in the morning, and then we probably stopped to eat a burger or something because we were probably hungry. And then we headed to the office for the strategy session. Talk to me about sort of that transition from the hiking trail and then into the office where we kind of whiteboarded all the ideas and started really framing out what your strategic plan looked like. What was that experience like from your perspective?
Yeah, it was really nice. It almost felt like coming back from like recess in elementary school, you know, where it was like you have your play time, and you know, that was still pretty early on in like us getting to know each other. So kind of like feeling out, you know, where's her head at, where's my head at with all this stuff. But it was really nice to go to lunch and just like, we didn't even really talk about anything business related, just more about life and kind of how our lives were going and stuff. And then it was really nice to have, you know, all that energy from the hike and all of that creative stuff, and then be able to just sit down and like spearhead that straight into like what we're going to be working on. It was so much better than like starting it the other way around, I feel like, you know, because like, I mean, and that's why you do it the way that you do it is let's get the creative juices flowing, let's get the energy, and then sit down and be really direct, really focused for this little bit of time. And so I think having the transition of lunch was nice because, you know, it just made it feel way less formal than if we would have just jumped into an office and started breaking down walls. It's like, well, I don't really know who this is. She doesn't really know me. Yeah. And after, you know, 3-4 hours, it was like, okay, I feel a lot more comfortable, and feel like you had my best interest in mind also. For sure. So I should keep feeding my clients in between hikes and strategy sessions. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think we did Cafe Rio. Which, we did. Yeah. I remember that now. Yeah. I think that was my first Cafe Rio experience. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and what's interesting, no one wants to like create a strategic plan while they're hangry, so we gotta definitely do that. So talk to me about your actual strategic plan, and now like you run a successful business, mental performance. Tell me how the planning between the hike and then what we kind of created is sort of helping you today in your business. Yeah, definitely. Well, one of the biggest things that you did to help me was making the one-pager. Because I've printed that out, I hand that out to tons of clients, and you know, that really helped me. I think the biggest thing that helped me was just giving me like some structure. I feel like I have really great ideas. I have experience. You know, I've been in sports for my entire life. I've experienced sports at all different kinds of levels. I have friends that play at the highest level. You know, I can talk to them. but I needed a way to structure it all. And I was really, I mean, I had no real previous work experience, definitely no experience running my own business. And I feel like the biggest thing that came out of the plan, like, this sounds dumb, but it was the plan.
The plan.
And the structure.
Yeah.
That really pushed me to where I was like, every week after we met, I would leave and I would have action steps and I'd be like, okay, now I know exactly what to do. Whereas before, I would wake up and I'd be like, I have to do something, but like I didn't know
where
to even start.
Yeah.
And so, it was like what's the like word for it? Like paralyzed by like too many choices.
Sure.
Like
Indecision.
paradox of choices. Like there was way too many things to get done, and in the end, I would end up not getting very much done. Whereas I would leave, our weekly meetings and be like, okay, I need to do X, Y, Z, and I can do that, and I can dominate that, and I think that's what really, really helped me to get in a good spot now, where I can make that for myself a little bit now that I know what that should look like.
Sure. So one last question for you. Since our work together, how have you maybe embraced the idea of kind of the Hike 31 challenge in your everyday life, getting out in nature, leaving your cell phone and your smartwatch behind, being in movement for at least the 30 minutes? Like, how are you using that today in your business to generate some cool ideas?
Yeah, definitely. I think after experiencing that whole thing, I'm a big runner. I'm getting into biking now. I think before it was something where I was like, I need my music. Like I need my podcast, my audiobook. I need David Goggins in my ear telling me to keep on going. And I find myself now a lot more on my shorter ones. Sometimes on the long ones, I'll bring it because I do need. Sure. I'll be running for 2 or 3 hours. It's like okay, it's fine if I put my earbuds in, but if I'm just going out for 30, 40, even 60 minutes, I'll leave my AirPods at home and I'll just go out by myself, and even on bike rides too, just go out on a bike ride and I'll just let my thoughts kind of come to me. I know when I'm having trouble thinking about, okay, what should I schedule for this client? What should I talk about today with this team? Sometimes instead of just sitting in my office and just like trying to just strength my way through it, I'll be like, okay, I should just go on a run, or I should just go out on a bike ride. And if I can just go out and just focus on something else, like I'll come back to the office, I'll have 4, 5, 6 different things. I'll be like, man, I have enough content for like the next month for this client. Just because like instead of trying to just force my way through it, I kind of just like got active, got my mind focused on something else, and these creative juices start flowing, and it's really nice. So I think the Hike 31 challenge has definitely kind of changed how I view my use of technology and the use of where my attention's at, like when I'm exercising. I don't think it's necessarily changed my exercise patterns just because I already do exercise so much.
Sure.
But it's definitely changed like my perspective on that, and how exercise is good for you physically, for your fitness, for all these different things, but it's also good to just get your attention somewhere else, and it can be really good for your business too, which I think is something that a lot of people are missing.
Yeah, love it.